Travis Kelce, a veteran tight end for Kansas City, returned to the field after a bye week. He was eager to shake off a difficult loss to the Buffalo Bills, which would have broken a solid three-game winning streak for the Chiefs. It was a painful defeat, especially considering that Kelce had only managed to haul in 4 passes for 66 yards. The fact that he had his worst performance since the Giants game in September only served to heighten the anticipation for a significant comeback game against the Denver Broncos, who are currently in first place in their division. Despite the fact that both teams were vying for a spot in the playoffs, Denver, which was led by rookie quarterback Bo Nix, came prepared for a fight. The stakes were high. The defense of the Broncos set the tone for the game by hammering the Chiefs' offense and making every yard a battle from the moment the game began. The rivalry was fierce and the energy was heavy from the beginning of the game. At the end of the second quarter, with a little more than 7 minutes remaining on the clock, Patrick Mahomes connected with Kelce for a crucial gain of 10 yards that helped move the chains. However, just as Kelce was getting up, Broncos cornerback Jaquan McMillian pounced on him and slammed into his chest, causing him to lose his breath and igniting an instant uproar. When Kelce became enraged, she stormed over to McMillian, got right in his face, and then heated words began to fly. Although their teammates rushed in to separate them, the intensity of the situation had already reached a peak throughout the stadium. It was made abundantly clear that neither side was going to back down. Despite the fact that there was a confrontation, there were no flags thrown for taunting. However, according to NFL rules, there are significant fines for behavior of this nature, and the incident was going to be reviewed after the game. When it came to league discipline, Kelce was no stranger. It was a testament to the fire that he brought to the field that he had already been fined nearly $15,000, 0 cents, for an offensive gesture that he had made against the Eagles earlier in that season. This was in addition to the more than $130,000, 0 cents, in fines that he had received throughout his career. McMillian, on the other hand, had never been fined since he joined the Broncos in 2022. This meant that their confrontation was a first for him, which was a sign of how much was at stake. The remainder of the game was played out like a fight between two heavyweights. The rivalry between these two teams is one of the most intense in the league, and every play is filled with tension as they compete for dominance. Following their defeat at the hands of Buffalo, the Chiefs were eager to get back on their feet and regain their previous level of success. This fiery moment between Kelce and McMillian became a symbol for the Chiefs' refusal to be intimidated as they prepared for a home game against the Colts and attempted to maintain their position as the leaders of the AFC West. Mahomes continued to rely on Kelce on crucial downs, counting on the trust and connection that they had developed over the course of years while serving as the focal point of Kansas City's offense. This was in contrast to Denver's defense, which was relentless and physical, applying pressure on every snap. It was that drive in which Kelce and McMillian had a confrontation that encapsulated the entire game. Each and every inch was contested, and each and every play was loaded with emotion. The officials allowed them to play, but they were prepared to intervene if things got away from them. Even as the halftime break drew near, the confrontation that had been going on between Kelce and McMillian continued to keep both teams on edge. The constant reminder that this was more than just another game was a constant reminder in an effort to keep the Chiefs' season on track. Kelce, who is known for his intense nature, channeled his frustration into his blocking and route running. He lifted his teammates up with his energy and focus. Given their dominant position at the top of the division, the Broncos had no intention of retreating. Their very own brand of football that is known for its toughness, which challenges the Chiefs at every turn. Each time Kelce lined up, the secondary players in Denver prepared themselves for another collision, the fireworks that occurred earlier between him and McMillian, which added an additional edge. Simply tap the subscribe button right now if you want more coverage like this. There was a fierce competition throughout the remainder of the second quarter, with neither team willing to give up ground and the score remaining close until the halftime whistle blew. During the huddle, Kelce's leadership was readily apparent. Even though their emotions were running high, his fire helped his teammates maintain their focus. On top of the physical conflict, the Chiefs coaches are aware of the mental games that are taking place, adjusted their strategies in an effort to take advantage of Denver's aggressiveness against them without going over the line and incurring penalties that could potentially swing the game in the opposite direction. At the beginning of the third quarter, everyone's attention was still focused on Kelce and McMillian. The earlier altercation between them was shown on the large screens and commented on by the commentators, who speculated about the possible actions that the league could take in response. The Chiefs emerged from the locker room with the intention of confronting the physicality of the Denver Broncos. Kelce was once again at the center of the action, which resulted in the Broncos secondary covering him closely and giving him hard hits. There was a mixture of cheers and boos for every catch that Kelce made. During each tackle made by McMillian, the officials were on the lookout for any indications of retaliation or behavior that was not considered to be sportsmanlike. The crowd was feeding off of the animosity. When Denver realized they had the opportunity to get under Kelce's skin, they increased their level of aggression in an effort to disrupt his routes and force Mahomes to look someplace else. Kelce continued to put in effort, drawing on his years of experience and his toughness in order to locate space and fight for additional yards. However, neither Kelce nor McMillian slowed down as the game progressed and fatigue began to set in. Their individual conflict is a reflection of the larger conflict that is taking place between the two teams for control of the AFC West. Kelce's example was followed by the Chiefs sideline, and every snap had the potential to affect the playoffs. Inspiring younger players and demonstrating that Kansas City's championship DNA was about more than just skill. His willingness to confront adversity and keep pushing forward was a significant factor. On the other hand, the Broncos rallied around McMillian's tenacity, viewing his stand against Kelce as evidence that they would not be bullied, at least not by one of the most talented tight ends in the league. Despite the fact that the outcome was still unknown, the earlier confrontation continued to have an effect on the atmosphere and the level of intensity on the field as the fourth quarter approached. Due to the fact that they were aware of how much was at stake, the fans lived and died with each play, and their excitement reached its peak with each significant hit and crucial pass. Both teams had completely depleted their reserves by the time the final whistle blew. Kelce and McMillian found themselves at the center of the story in the most recent chapter of the rivalry, which was written in the form of bruises and sweat spots. During the hours that followed the game, there was a lot of speculation about possible fines or suspensions. Both players were waiting to hear from league officials about whether or not their behavior would result in penalties or even worse. This was just another line on Kelce's long resume of emotional and hard-nosed football, and she was proud of it. While this was going on, the Chiefs, who were still reeling from recent defeats, attempted to use the game as a stepping stone to get back into the conversation for the playoffs. McMillian's willingness to go toe-to-toe with Kelce had set the tone for the Broncos' defense, and the Broncos, who had a young quarterback and a chip on their shoulders, saw the game as proof that they belonged among the elite of the American Football Conference. Kelce's fire served as a rallying point for the entire team. The tension continued to rise throughout the second half, with the crowd roaring in approval as McMillian followed Kelce around and shadowing him every time he caught a pass. Neither of the men is willing to budge an inch, despite the fact that the Broncos attempted to double his tight end and rough him up at the line. Mahomes continued to have faith in his tight end. However, Kelce's experience and toughness continued to reveal themselves, particularly when the Chiefs were in need of a spark. The Broncos' defense, which was unrelenting from the beginning to the end, continued to make shots, and the emotion that had been generated by the earlier altercation appeared to fuel both teams, making each play feel like it was more significant. While the coaches were on the sidelines, they kept a close eye on their players, attempting to keep their tempers under control while still allowing their players to play with the edge that was necessary to win such an important game. The officials made sure to keep things under control as the game progressed by issuing warnings to the players and letting them know that they were watching, but they did not want to throw a flag unless it was absolutely necessary to do so until the game was over. As a result of the crowd's awareness of the significance of each and every snap, they maintained their volume and engagement throughout the game. Their responses providing the players with the energy they needed to perform. Everyone was curious about what would happen next with Kelce and McMillian after the game was over, because the intensity remained high at the conclusion of the game. What kind of punishments would the league impose, such as fines? Or would they consider more severe measures, such as suspensions? The event was merely another chapter in Kelce's career, which was characterized by significant moments and significant feelings. His leadership and fire were on full display in a game that could have significant repercussions for the remainder of the playoffs. Keeping in mind that they would need Kelce to be at his best in order to compete for another Super Bowl, the Chiefs looked ahead. During this time, the Broncos were able to walk away with the knowledge that they had sent a message to the rest of the division by standing up to one of the best players in the league. As time went on, Kelce's reputation as a leader who was passionate and occasionally volatile only grew. In the heat of battle, his willingness to stand up for himself and his team earned him respect, but it also drew scrutiny from those around him. While this was going on, McMillion's first real brush with controversy marked a turning point in his young career. It demonstrated that he was capable of handling the pressure and intensity of playing in the National Football League, NFL. In the days that followed, the review of the incident that was conducted by the league loomed over both of the men. The possibility of being fined or suspended further adds an additional layer of drama to a season that is already full of excitement.